What's up, everybody? We're back. SCP podcast.
Oh my God, have we started?
We're started.
All right, this is episode 4.
Episode numero quattro.
I don't know why you couldn't just say 4, but yeah, here we are. We're going to be talking about viruses that can wipe out humanity today. Seemed appropriate for the time.
And no, we're not talking about the one.
Don't want to get demonetized.
Yeah.
Be quiet. Shh.
We're not talking about the one.
You know that one thing that everyone's been talking about for the last few months?
Between 18 and 20?
Yeah. That one.
That one.
We're talking about some other viruses that might make that one look like not that big of a deal. But yeah, so I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have a lot of material. We should just get right into it. We should dive right in.
Go for it.
All right. First one I'm going to talk about is SCP-610, The Flesh That Hates.
The most obvious one.
Probably the most popular of all of the virus type.
Contagion.
SCPs. This one's a contagious skin disease, which is always fun. So it's, as far as I read, it's contained in Russia, somewhere out there in Russia. And the Foundation was able to sort of contain it to a certain parameter, and it even comes with a map. Pretty cool feature of the SCP, where you can see the boundaries and everything of like the contained area. I digress. Symptoms are itching, rash, increased skin sensitivity. Within 3 hours, disease causes blemishes resembling heavy scar tissue. It just keeps going like that. In fact, it spreads to the legs and back within an additional hour, but it even said infections can be less than 5 minutes total. So you're like this, and then you get the infection, then you turn into a disgusting, melting blob of goo by 5 minutes later.
Really is the flesh that hates.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on this one very briefly because there's a lot of virus SCPs, and I want to make sure we hit the ones that people may not have heard of yet.
Right. That one's very on the nose.
This one, everyone's heard of it. Very spooky doopy, but also pretty extreme, which is, we talk about this all the time, but that's SCP for you. You know, like the most extreme one's going to be the most popular one.
Right.
And this one is definitely, I don't want this happening to me, extreme, and it's fast.
Yeah.
So
very contagious.
It's like, take the most contagious thing and they're like, no, that's nothing. This is contagious.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It definitely could kill humanity if it's not contained.
Absolutely. But I think I just wanted to touch on that, open with that one, the big one. But there's some that I actually find a lot more interesting that I'll be discussing later on. You want to tell me one?
Sure. I'll knock another like very popular, like very like on the nose type one. So Zombie Plague 008.
It's gotta be a zombie plague.
Yeah. You know, it's pretty much like standard like zombie infection. It's not like your Walking Dead where it's airborne and everyone has it or whatever. It's more traditional zombie infection transfer, so it has to be between bodily fluids.
So this is like a Romero zombie type deal.
But it's 100% infectious. So if your fluids get swapped with someone who has 008, how
about SCP-500?
I think that can cure it. Yeah. But I mean, it's 100% infectious. Like if you get exposed to it, you will catch it, and it's 100% lethal. So you will die to it 100%. And I guess unless,
and then you come back though as the zombie.
Right. Gotcha. Correct. Yeah.
So it's your standard zombie virus.
It's pretty standard, you know, like at first it starts with fever and itching, scratching, then you start necrosis sets in. Necrosis.
I think it's necrosis because
where you know your body starts decaying, you know, very zombie like. You start showing aggression. It's very very much a zombie plague, but super duper infectious. 100% lethal.
My kind of virus.
Yeah, if you don't contain it, you know, and SCP-500, I think to all of these, like it cures everything. So
yeah, I was actually reading through these and I was looking for one that's like SCP-500 doesn't work for this one.
Yeah,
because then that's like, oh, you took the cake. That's the the most dangerous of
Right.
the SCPs.
But
Viruses.
I think that's obviously the whole point of 500 is that it literally cures anything.
Well, if you think about it, 500 is like a plot device for just about anything.
Right. But there's not enough of 500 to
Go around, we gotta only the
by the time a whole city's infected or whatever, you can't 500 it's over.
only the bourgeoisie get the 500.
We're pretty much the Illuminati.
Yeah, exactly. The O5s.
The
So
lizard people.
you talked about lizard person last episode. So I'm going to talk about one now. SCP-081 Spontaneous Combustion Virus. I know what you're thinking. Where could this possibly go? Well, I'll tell you. So, this is a contagious virus spread by rats who act as passive carriers.
Like the black plague.
The bubonic plague.
The bubonic plague.
The booby plague.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Killed most of Europe.
Yeah,
Hello.
I went to school. So it can be spread through exposure to infected blood or through sexual intercourse.
Oh, man.
Yeah, don't get me started. Stage 1 is 1 week incubation period before initial symptoms. So you don't have any symptoms for the first week. And then stage 2 is the second week where you just, is it hot in here? I got hot flashes. What's going on? Sounds pretty similar to something going on right now. Until we get to this next part. Stage 3 is subjects demonstrate extreme polyphagia, which is excessive eating, so you just can't stop stuffing your face with cake or other foods too. So, yeah, the virus can't complete its life cycle unless a victim is composed of at least 55% body fat.
55.
Yeah,
oh my God.
So for some people,
would you not die before that?
For some people, particularly in the United States, the process of the virus would be a little quicker than for others.
Yeah.
A little closer to 55.
55. Like, oh, I'm cutting down.
So then once they're 55% body fat, the virus kind of becomes dormant where you're like, oh, I'm not feeling all right today. Like, and then you go out, you go for a walk, and at any point is when the combustion can happen. So you could be in a shopping mall and you see this fat person walking along and then just boom. So sort of like the, what are they called? Boomers in Left 4 Dead. They just explode.
Those kind of boomers. Yes.
Yeah. Not the baby boomers, but like the boomers in Left 4 Dead or whatever they're called.
I think they're called boomers.
Yeah. See, all I can think of when I hear boomer now is boomers.
Right. Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer. So they explode. And this is obviously a great way to spread the virus because they explode, they get their blood and stuff on people, and then they get the virus as well. So especially if you just get that in their mouths and their eyeballs and stuff. Yeah. Great way to spread a virus.
Yeah. Or you have sex with the fluid. Then you get it too.
What's wrong with you? Anyway, so SCP-081 Spontaneous Combustion Virus. That's a wrap for that one. That one's basically just you blow up.
Boom.
I could have guessed that one from reading the title, but
right.
Some of these are a little
I would have
less
thought they
predictable.
would have like exploded in fire or something. So that makes sense.
Nope, just blood.
Just blood
and organs.
Yeah.
And flesh.
Okay, so I'm gonna go a little weird. Like it's a virus, but it's not like medicinal virus. It's not like a health virus. It's a computer virus. Okay, viruses that can destroy humanity, but it can
destroy. This is not what we talked about.
It can destroy humanity. Okay, it's 2234, SCP-2234. It's a series of computer viruses that are essentially pop-up ads, but the pop-up ads infected the Foundation directory itself. So what happens is it'll infect files with these weird advertisements. The SCP itself is called Great Deals on Pineal Removal. The pineal glands, I learned when I read this, is a gland in your brain.
Didn't you say penile removal?
I thought it was penile at first, but
it's just something else.
Pineal. Pineal removal. Yeah, it's this gland in your brain that it's reactive to light and it controls your sleep cycles. So if you're really big into like sleep cycles and waking up naturally and whatnot. But it's got all these weird pop-up ads that infect the actual SCP directory and all the files, and it usually is in a way that obscures important information. And so they have to contain the files or rewrite the files. And it also can infect people if you print something out that has that advertisement on, and then you physically touch the paper that's printed out.
So it's like a mimetic thing, or is
right? It causes like confusion and paranoia.
Maybe that's a cognito hazard.
Yeah,
I'm still learning this stuff.
Yeah. So it's a weird thing where like it starts as a computer virus and then it becomes
a virus,
an actual virus. But that's only like one phase of it. The other phase of 2234 is that for those that become exposed to the computer virus, so you see the pop-up ads or whatever inside the SCP Foundation directory, it will send you pop-up text messages or direct messages to the phone of the person that is viewing the information from a random person in your contact list. But it'll send you sensitive data about SCPs that the person sending it would have no information of, nor even a lot of times the researcher at the site that looked at
I don't even have clearance for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the case that's specifically mentioned in there's a researcher that was working on 993 and then saw the ads because it infected some of the files of 993, and then got advertisements for Laugh is Fun seasons 1 through 7, which Laugh is Fun is part of Wondertainment and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's SCP-2030. And the researcher working on 939 didn't have any knowledge of what Laugh is Fun is or 230 or 2030 or anything. Neither was the person in the context that was sending it to him. So it's a very strange, they don't know if it's like a man-made infection.
Yeah.
Or if it's like some kind of weird entity that is taking the form of these advertisements. But the reason that, I think that it could, in theory, destroy humanity is because obviously there's a ton of sensitive information in the SCP website and the directories. If it obscures information that's vital.
What do you think about mimetic or cognito hazard type SCPs that it releases information for that are contagious?
Right.
And just hearing them or knowing about them.
Right.
Whatever the one with the dots is.
Right.
Wherever you say it, it'll take you away. I mean, there's just so many.
Right. And also if it just affects the containment of a very dangerous SCP that could destroy humanity as well.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a very kind of goofy SCP at first, but it could legitimately have huge impacts on the containment of other more dangerous SCPs. So I think that's a virus that could destroy humanity for sure.
I got one.
Okay.
SCP-217 The Clockwork Virus. Another very popular one. This one I think was a little more well written than The Flesh of Hates, to be honest. Just the way they built it up throughout the actual article. So another one, incurable, 100% infection rate. I don't know if it kills you. I think it just completely turns you into this thing, right?
Okay.
So it's spread by touch or contact with bodily fluid, and it can survive for years outside the body, and it has like a slow infection progress. So you could have it for years and years and not know that you're even infected.
Be a carrier.
You're a carrier without showing any symptoms. Always a really terrifying thing to think about, being like a carrier or whatever. Like, that's just creepy in its own sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it alters the biochemistry of organic tissue, causing organic matter to rearrange into organic metal.
Oh.
Yeah. So basically what that means is where you have organs or structures in your body, they slowly convert into metal, and not just metal, but gears and clockwork type devices. Sort of you become a steampunk robot. But as all that occurs, it happens primarily inside your body before showing any symptoms on the outside of your body. So what this feels like is tearing. Maybe you have some internal pain, or at first it's just joint pain, insomnia, stuff like that, before it becomes this overwhelming pain like you've been stabbed by a knife.
Right.
At which point you should probably see a doctor.
Right. I would hope so.
And then get picked up by the SCP Foundation before amnestics are given to the entire hospital. Yeah. So gear networks replace organs. So even your heart, depending on what organ we're talking about, the functionality isn't completely taken away. It's simply replaced with a sort of metallic device that serves a similar purpose.
Right.
Wish I could think of an example, but I really can't. But it converts internal structures before appearing on the outside. So once your whole inside is changed, it's usually how it happens. Your whole inside is converted to clockwork gear stuff, and then it starts showing on your skin and protruding from your body. I know.
Is it something where like you get a cut and you're like, ow, and then
well, you ever see one of those people with one of those cool tattoos where it looks like their skin is ripped and there's just gears and devices? It's like that.
Got it.
Yeah. But I think the coolest part, the coolest line in this that I read was people will feel early on a fluttering under the skin or hearing like a subtle ticking noise.
That's terrifying.
You're like, what is that? Like, ow, ooh, what's going on? Yeah, but that one I think is one of my favorites. Some of the ones that I have for later are also really good, but Clockwork Virus, I think that's probably the most interesting one I read about.
So I found one that I liked a lot called Encyclopedia of Diseases, or Encyclopedia of Disease. Don't remember, but it's SCP-1025, and essentially it's a book, an encyclopedia of all these different infections and viruses and diseases and whatnot. And if you read one of the articles about it, then you get that disease or infection or whatever. So in the SCP file, it talks about how they conducted this like a series of experiments on 27 D-class patients. They started off pretty small, like with the common cold and whatnot. And everyone started experiencing the same thing. And then they got more advanced, and they tried a ton of experiments on lung cancer. And people kept, having like breathing difficulties and chest pain and whatnot. And then they would terminate the D class and do an autopsy on them. But then there's no cancer. There's no tumor.
So
or
there's
infection.
nothing actually. You just show the symptoms of it.
At first, they thought it might be that, or that upon death, the infection ceases to exist. So they kept experimenting. And it's a well-written file because, as you're reading through it, it says, "Oh, we skipped some for the sake of time. We didn't want to write down every experiment." But then once you get to the very end, there's an 05 that writes like, "Why did you guys use 27 D classes?" So it was a lot of people that they
like, I don't know.
They're just like,
we were bored.
They're like, we gave him lung cancer. Not there. Gave him lung cancer. Still not there. Gave him lung cancer. There's still no tumor. I guess we'll try a fourth time. Like, it's a very strange sort of like sickness. But it turns out, or at least the strong implication is that there is no actual disease. It's like a placebo kind of effect where just reading it from this book, you think you have the disease and then you experience everything for real like you do, but you don't actually have it.
It's a disease of the mind.
And it goes one step further where if you if you read from the article that where you have an infectious disease, other people can get that infectious disease that you don't really have. Like it can still pass as if it's an actual contagion.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm more interested in the fact that these scientists were killing or like doing this to so many people. Is it just like supposed to be a comment on the just the nature of them and how messed up that is, or is that an actual part of the book as well, part of the SCP?
See, I wasn't 100% sure about that, and maybe some of the comments can clear that out, because the 05 basically says like, who approved this? Like, why were there researchers? Why was there so many D-class? Like, it was very apparent that this is like a hypochondria type thing where people like you, when you read the book, you're just convinced that you have it, and you start acting like the symptoms when you don't really. And the 05 basically ordered that the book just be locked away and no one ever does any more experiments on it.
That's like the rational thing to do.
Right. Well, the whole facility, not just the D-class died, but all the researchers died because they all thought that they got infected with diseases. So in a lot of ways, it's like when people read WebMD and they think that they're like infected.
See, that's another thing, like how we talked about metaphors and like how there's like deeper commentary in these. And I feel like that's a WebMD commentary for sure. Like, or just hypochondriacs and reading into things and creating their own symptoms by thinking too hard on it. So
it mentions a lot of other SCPs that are diseases. One of the persons started like spewing blood from all their orifices.
See, that sounds real.
Which is SCP-016, which is another virus that's highly contagious and stuff. So you actually experience it, like all the diseases. You're actually going through it. It's not physically there. The placebo effect is so strong that your body actually goes through with it. But basically all the D-class died, all the researchers died. They all concealed themselves into airtight spaces because they're so afraid of getting other infections. When they found them, there's people like in closets, and they put garbage bags and taped and sealed themselves in like airtight containers because they're afraid they're going to catch other infections.
And then just the lack of oxygen killed them.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And there's people like in air ducts and all kinds of stuff. And they all died from like various different diseases or lack of oxygen or starvation. But they all just went like paranoid.
Yeah. That one's pretty dark.
That one's cool though.
That is an interesting one for sure. I think that's definitely more interesting than just there was a virus and it killed people.
Right.
Like, that one has something to say for sure.
Right. There's so many virus disease,
especially in series 1.
Yeah.
Like series 1, it was like even the first 100, it's like, were there 10, 20 viruses?
There's a lot.
Yeah. It's just, there's so many that we couldn't even really touch on the surface of them. And this one, I'm sure as it goes on through series 6, there's, countless.
Right.
And people come up with really clever ideas for them. I'll read off one right now. So SCP-371, it's called Macrovirus. So once again, right from the title, you can kind of guess what's going to happen here. So, it's a macroscopic marine virus, meaning it's larger than your average virus, ranging from 20 centimeters to 2.5 meters in size. It's the same, structure as a virus. If you guys know what a virus looks like, it's underwater, and it can be mistaken for like a jellyfish because of its appearance. So
interesting.
So it's a water-based one. This one definitely can't wipe out humanity. It's just a little too sorry. No, we talked about so many though. I have another one that could as well. But yeah, so it's a marine predator. It has a sharpened and hardened beak-like base plate, making it capable of injecting genetic material through skin of prey. So it's sort of like a squid, the way they have a beak and they can.
Right.
Yeah. And it hunts by sensing heat, vibrations, etc. And 371 has an encoding mechanism. So it injects numerous microscopic DNA encoding packets, which enter host cells and use them to respawn the macroscopic organism inside the host. Now we're getting a little alien face catchery.
Right.
Because that is what happens. So it uses that beak. It'll attack and it'll inject the DNA packets, and then it'll slowly grow another 371 inside of the host. And so, 0 hours, it injects material. 8 hours later, transcription of 371's genetic packets begin transcribing and bonding with host RNA. So this is also a longer one. 95 hours is synthesis. So it forms a new 371 in the abdominal cavity of the host. Once again, very alien. And then after 240 hours, there's bursting, which only happens when the host is in water. It'll actually wait until the host re-enters water in order to burst, and then it face catchers out of them, and often causing serious bleeding, internal injuries, and death. So
it won't destroy humanity.
It won't destroy humanity. Like, we could always not go in the ocean.
Right.
And also these things seem like whatever. And they're also found in very not densely populated areas, such as like the bottom of like deep ocean.
The Bermuda Triangle.
You can say the Marianas Trench or something like that. It's like, yeah, but it's found in not very common areas. One instance in the article said, I think the Caribbean is where it was found, and it attacked a diver. So
you're not going to, go in your pool and these things there.
No. And also it doesn't have really the replication power to be something to destroy humanity. So that one was just a fun one, though. I mean, it's like a jellyfish virus thing that bites people and face catchers out of their.
It's definitely gross. Definitely a virus.
Sure. For sure, nasty.
All right. So I got an interesting one. Again, taking a little liberty here in the destroying humanity.
See, you just gave me shit about it, and I'm kind of...
Because we didn't say, like, kill all humans. We just said destroy humanity. So this one, it would not kill people, but I think it would completely destroy humanity's, like, social structure. Like, it would be completely eradicated. So
you suck.
It's an interesting one. So it's SCP-220. And it's basically this old man. He was 76.
Dude, the old man. I love the old man.
He was 76 at the time that they wrote it, which I think was 2012. So that would make him 84 now. But he goes by two names, and he has two distinct personalities. One is named Ormond Garibaldi, kind of a goofy name, but then the other one is Ollie, and then it's redacted, the last name. But they said that the Ollie one is his actual, like, they found birth certificates and stuff for it. So that's his real name. But he has two distinct personalities. So he has dissociative personality disorder. But the weird thing about him is that if you have a conversation with him, you do not perceive him as one person with two personalities. You just perceive him either as two people. So like you're having a conversation with two people, or you're having like two simultaneous conversations.
Which could get very confusing.
And you're just going back and forth based on whatever personality he is speaking as. Now, that's, kind of interesting, whatever, not a big deal. Just don't talk to him. Except if you have prolonged exposure to him, like you have hours of conversation with Ormond Garibaldi
yep,
or Ollie, then that his effect takes place on all of your conversations. So you can go and not have a conversation with him, but anybody on the street, you start perceiving every single person as either two distinct people, or they're flipping back and forth like one or the other. It kind of depends on the person.
Is it contagious though?
You have to speak to Ormond Ollie, and I think if you speak to someone who has it as well, I think you can also get it. I might be wrong about that.
If that's the case, then it can be exponential,
right?
But if it's only the guy, I mean, it's kind of like,
yeah,
what are the chances?
But
I'll take my risk. I'll go outside.
But for this, for the sake of my argument, let's say that it is.
Yeah. Then I'll accept it. If not, it doesn't belong anywhere in this video or this audio recording. If you're on Spotify.
people get they get very confused and erratic.
Homicidal?
I don't think homicidal.
Once again, I think it's dangerous.
I think it's strong, but it's not destroying. It's not killing all of humanity. I never said it was going to kill all of humanity, but it would, if it was infectious and it did spread and everyone started to perceive everyone as two different people.
Can't have a conversation again.
Yeah, it would destroy all of our social constructs.
Yeah, we'd almost have to like just go into isolation in our homes and not leave.
And I don't think it's something that like if you're talking to somebody and you perceive them as two people, until they get infected, I don't think they understand. So conversations would be nearly impossible.
That one's probably the least dangerous on this list.
It's about the same as the jellyfish. I'm going to go
and say that one's not really, doesn't really belong on viruses that could wipe out humanity. I accept all SCPs here.
It was marked as contagion. Okay. It had the contagion tag.
Yeah, that's how you found it.
That's how I found it.
All right, let's talk about SCP-742. This is my last one, by the way. Do you have another one?
I don't.
Okay, so this is my last one. This is Retrovirus. And for those of you who don't know what a retrovirus are, retroviruses are a group of RNA viruses which insert a DNA copy of their genome into the host cell in order to replicate.
Mm-hmm.
So HIV is like a retrovirus.
Right.
So this one is more complex than any other retrovirus, of course, because it's a SCP, so it has to take things to the next level.
Right.
So it immunocompromises the host, and infected cells secrete hormones that increase appetite. This is the stage 1. So once you're infected with it, I'll get around to how you get infected with it a little later, because that comes at the end of the article. But during stage 2, it affects the nervous system, causing the subject to eat large quantities of protein-rich foods. I know what you're going to say. Don't worry. They don't explode in this case. But they do eat a lot of food. And that's sort of like a bear stocks up for the winter, because next thing that happens is they go into hibernation, slowing the metabolism to a state of apparent death. You follow me?
I feel you.
Okay. I feel you, dog. During this period, 742 completely reverse transcribes itself into the subject's DNA and deactivates its viral properties.
Okay.
Cool. So from now on, the subject is referred to as 7421. And then it comes out of hibernation. 7421 has new organs, a new digestive system.
It's like it was an ugly caterpillar.
Yeah, it's become a disgusting butterfly. Yeah. So, and apparently, I don't know how this works, but it said apparently upon a medical, if you went to get your checkup, apparently it wouldn't be clear that there's anything changed about you, even though you have new organs. I don't know how that works, but
it's like
that's what it said. So,
a memetic thing,
no, it's just undetectable or something.
Oh, so it's the exact same, or like
you're the same, organs, but you have new organs and a new digestive system for a very specific purpose I'm about to get to. So in order to survive, 7421 needs to feed on human stem cells. Can you guess what happens next?
Stem cell research.
Not exactly. So the people
vampires.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. The people infected with this virus become nocturnal hunters, paralyzing humans with a venomous bite. They drain the bone marrow, occasionally cannibalizing flesh as well for subsistence. And I was like, this is very vampire-ish. Not like you bite them and turn them into a vampire, but yeah, pretty vampire-ish.
Yeah.
But then it gets even more vampire-ish.
Or like a leech.
Yeah, like a leech vampire.
Yeah.
I could see this being an episode of X-Files, honestly.
Yeah.
So they don't age. Another very clear vampire thing.
Pretty vampire-y.
They didn't say anything about them not seeing their reflection in the mirror, but
or garlic.
I wouldn't be surprised if those things were added in some addendum or something. But they're immortal if they're supplied with enough human stem cells. Another kind of weird thing about this is when babies are the victims, they take their baby teeth. They just decided to throw that one in there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe there's some actual
like little chiclets pop.
Something to do with stem cells, or I don't know. But yeah, the last totally vampire part is the fact that others infected with 742, if they're infected rather than murdered by a 7421, they become subservient to those that infect them. So
pretty vampire.
Yeah, like you have the main vampire. What do you call it? Just the alpha vampire or something? Or
Dracula.
Yeah, you have Dracula, and then you have all the little minions.
Yeah.
And so that's the vampire virus, I guess.
That's pretty cool still. It sounds like we're shitting on it because it's
no, it is
vampire.
Cool. Vampires are interesting.
Yeah.
I read Salem's a lot. I like that.
It's a more scientific vampire than it's not like a Twilight thing where it's like goofy.
Twilight is the most dumbed down version of vampires you can possibly get.
Or even like a True Blood.
Because if you even watch if you watch an 80s movie like The Lost Boys, it's like, I think there could be something here referring to the HIV epidemic and it's very appropriate for the time period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like vampires are more used as a storytelling device. And if you just have a plain old vampire like Twilight, it's kind of not very interesting.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but the original Dracula movie, like the old, was it the 30s that it came out? The scariest thing about the old Dracula movies is not like when he's like sucking on someone's blood or anything, because that's kind of goofy and silly. But kind of getting back to what I said last episode, when things are scary, when it's just like almost the way it should be, but not quite. And so there's parts with like the old Dracula movies where you see him walking and then the camera cuts away and it cuts back, and like he should have been walking through a bunch of spider webs. So the spider webs should have been down, but the spider webs aren't down. So
is that on purpose, or is that like one of those Stanley Kubrick film analysis where it's like he did everything on purpose? He's a genius.
It's definitely purposeful in this one.
What is that documentary? Room 2 it's the Shining Room or whatever. But
now I can never
and they're
remember.
like Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing, and they just went so deep into this whole thing. Anyway, as long as it's not like that. Anyway, we're veering off of SCP now.
Yeah, but all of these SCPs, we tried to find ones that were a little bit different, because there's a ton of them that are just like, oh, it's this infection, and then it affects your health this way, and then you die or whatever. And we didn't really want to touch on too many of those. We did like the kind of big ones, like the Zombie Plague and 610. But those are more like closer to actual things that could exist, and we wanted to go a little bit more like things that really could only exist inside of SCP.
Yeah, there's a reason a lot of these don't really exist.
Right.
One of the reasons why a virus like what's going on right now, why that works, is because viruses that kill people rapidly don't really last that long, because they don't last long enough to spread to other hosts, which is why a good virus doesn't kill people immediately, like the flesh that hates.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense in reality.
Yeah. And we got all the 5G towers popping up too, obviously. So
5G is a lie.
5G causes vampires.
That's a good place to end at. By the way, guys, Tickle Monster mugs, newscapepro.com in the description. If you guys want to get any rad, not bad, just rad in a cool way. SCP merch, go to newscapepro.com and you can get it there.
We have more than mugs, by the way.
Yeah, we have pins.
We have a lot more than mugs. Plushies.
We have stuff that is, we have something very cool coming.
Bandanas.
Yep. Not the bandanas. Those are already, but we have a very cool secret project that's coming in the future, and we'll be sure to show it off in an episode of this in the future, but it's going to be.
Is it more mugs?
It's we just got more mugs, and so if you guys want a mug, there's plenty. All right, cool. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you leave a comment telling us what you want us to cover in the next episode. Like, subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you next time.